everybody be? Where would cosplay be without makers and their ability to recreate many of the props and armor that we see with so many of the characters in this space? They bring our fandoms to life, from gaming to full suites made from scratch, and there's not much that my next guest cannot make. Creating some of the most amazing custom foam pieces that I've seen, and always a pleasure to work with, having made many of my cosplay pieces and just countless others for cosplayers and gamers everywhere. Please welcome GeekEthos creator Jess Hamlet to the show.
Thanks, Scott. It's great to be here.
It is really good to talk to you, and thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show here to talk about Inferno and some of the other amazing things that you do. It would just be wonderful if you would be able to tell me about the origins for GeekEthos and how it got to where it is today, just how you got started, and maybe even some of your plans coming up.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you so much for having me. You've been a blast to work with, and it's nice to be able to actually sit and talk to you instead of just shoot emails back and forth. So this is really nice. It's a treat for me. GeekEthos, I started probably where half of all cosplayers start, with Wonder Woman. I wanted to make a Wonder Woman costume that was a little more vintage and a little different, and I was having a hard time finding bracers, and just quick YouTube video, and I was like, oh, I can do that. And it was kind of just a rabbit hole from there. We found patterns and started really diving into EVA foam. My favorite part about what I do is taking an idea and making it your own and being original with it. So like my friends and I all got together and we made battle princesses. So like we created Disney princesses and put a spin where they were all in armor. So just stuff like that, where we've just like, that's what the things up here in the boxes are. Like I was Belle and my wife was Ariel. So we had a blast with that. And then it just kind of fell from there. I play D&D, and so in some of the other groups, they were talking about dice towers, and I was like, I could make a dice tower. So it's really just my own brain being like, well, I can try to make that, even though sometimes I can't. But it's amazing what you can learn off YouTube, for sure.
Yes, that's where a lot of us start. And really, I found you almost by chance. I was kind of looking through Etsy for some pieces for Dr. Fate, and that can be kind of hard to come across, but I found some gauntlets and I'm like, oh, those look really cool. Like, I bet that would work. You could kind of just mix that into sort of the Egyptian kind of sleek look that Dr. Fate has. So I reached out, and you put together a whole suit for me from a gauntlet, which is just amazing. You took the references and just went to town, and the pieces are just fantastic. I couldn't be more pleased with all of the things that you've done.
Well, that's so great to hear.
I have played D&D in the past, but not dice towers very much. Is that I guess is that part of, or is that something completely
different?
No,
it's just you being extra. No, you're good. And honestly, like half the time we don't play with them. We use them more for like when my in-laws come over and we play Catan, and they just get dice everywhere. So they're great for honestly like kids and people who aren't paying very good attention, and then they just keep the dice wrangled. So that's what we use them for. I've had a few people that have bought them because I've shamelessly poach off of other stuff, like the Castle Grayskulls, which are probably my favorite that I make.
Those are great.
Thank you. They're my favorite. I'm making them right now, but they start out as just like Pringles cans, and then little things, and then we'll glue them together, and I sculpt off of that, and then they kind of grow from there. I wish I had one to show you, but I've been trying to make those, but some people just use them and as decorations too, if they don't want to play with the dice kind of thing.
Well, and I like that you can kind of take what you have and make it into something really fantastic. You know, it's not like you're over a belt sander and you're welding pieces together and things like that. Like this is it's foam, it's fun, it's practical in many respects. Just translates so well from what you're seeing to what you end up creating. I just think that's really, I guess for me, because I'm just so terrible with that part of it, to see people who just do that, it's it's like looking at, somebody who can play the piano very well, or someone who learns many languages. It's just like, how do you do that? And they're like, well,
My friend's the same way. She does, she sews and she's amazing at it. And she's been trying to teach me. And it's like, my brain is like, no, I can't do that. And she's the opposite with foam. Like, she can't do anything with it either. It's like, you have a medium that you can do and you don't need to pivot out of your lane at all. So we're like a package deal.
I am curious. I saw, I guess, a whiteboard on your Instagram for Percy Jackson, and there were a large number of props. There were, I think, maybe 30 plus shields, which just seems like a lot of shield. That's a lot of props. Would you be able to tell me a little bit more about what you were making for the
Yeah, of course.
thief?
We have a local theater. It's called Springfield Little Theater. And we are involved in them. My spouse has been in some plays, and I've done a couple of items for them. But one of our good friends was directing Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, and asked us if we would help with props. And we ended up taking on all the props and making that. She kind of liked our style with it. But we ended up making almost 35 shields and 40 swords and daggers.
That's a lot.
And yeah, it was a lot. But I was going to show you this thing. So this is one of the shields I made, but all of the cast and crew signed it, which was really cool. It was really
that's
special.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Having those kind of unique takeaways from shows is just so great. We at one point they did T-shirts when I was in theater a few years ago. I was in theater for like 10 years or so.
Yeah.
But they used to do T-shirts, and everybody in the cast would sign them, and then they put them on the wall in the practice rooms and stuff. So
that's awesome.
As time went on, there'd be like 20 of them and all these different names. You're like, oh, look, there I am. I love to see that. It's so great to give back to the community like that.
For sure.
I'm sure that they appreciate it as well.
I think they were really sweet about it. There was definitely a different medium than they'd used in the past. So I think they were all like, it's so light. Like, I ended up, it's funny with the swords, because I've made a couple swords. They're not usually my go-to move, but I make them with like wooden dowels as the core, and then I smash it with the foam. That way it's and they're usually pretty thin wooden dowels. That way, because I'm always thinking, how can I make this lighter? How can I make this lighter for when you're going to cons, or when you're going to even Halloween? Like, you want it to be as comfortable as you can. But they were kind of the opposite. They were like, hey, we need you to bulk this up. It needs a little weight to it, because they were actually using them to battle with. So I ended up putting metal conduit in the middle of it, hitting it with a hammer, smashing it flat. My friend was like, according to Clue, you have given these children weapons, because they were metal pipes. And that just made me laugh.
Well, they have to be durable and lightweight. So if the kids are swinging them around and, play fighting, probably, because, even in my 20s, you give me a prop sword and that's the end of that sword. So,
for sure. I'm a big child with them. I think that might be why I don't make swords a lot, because I'm like, a sword. And I just, and away you go.
And you actually, in addition to foam, you have a 3D printer now?
I do. I just got
one.
Game
changer?
I hope so. I'm still learning. I actually just had to repair it because I poked a little hole in it. So I'm learning as I go. I'm not sure entirely what it's going to be for GeekEthos. Right now, it's just Jess likes to make shiny things. But like, I made a rock lobster. It had the rock's face, and then the rest of it looked like a lobster body for my brother-in-law. And it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen in your life. But
I saw that. I like that.
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining. So, but I'm hoping to use it for like those small, like, delicate pieces that really just make your costume pop. I was at a Comic-Con, and I had a panel I was doing at OzCon, and one of the guys in there and I were talking about making stuff with foam and 3D printing kind of being cheating. And I still have a hard time with 3D printers, because I'm like, I want to do it myself, but it gets to the point where you're like, but you have the tools and capability to make it look professional. Why wouldn't you use them? So I struggle with that a little bit of wanting it to have that. Like, all my dice towers are completely handmade, and all my costumes are completely handmade. Everything I've given to you, I hand make it. It's a bit of a struggle to take that away and be like, it will look better if you use this, if that makes sense.
But they're so cool right now. So I could see that, opening doors and being a way to like blend different things. And of course, it's just a completely new avenue to create.
Yeah.
But I really love just the attention to detail, and I can't imagine, you know, some of the pieces that you make, they're so unique. They must take a while to not just the concept, but to, you know, get all those little details and paint and everything. I know a little bit from firsthand. I'm working on some pieces for Havoc. In addition to the ones that you've made for me, I'm doing a headpiece, and
Hmm.
that was a good afternoon just to like figure out how that would even like look on the cowl that I have for it. I'm like,
For sure.
and I do have it, and it's getting there, but I still have like a lot of like, I don't know, it's I probably have to sand it down a bit just to make it look a little bit sharper, and then paint it, and it's just like all these steps.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
mhm.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna mention, you mentioned OzCon, and I know that you had a demo at the con, and you went through like the basics for foam making and armor.
Mhm.
And I was just going to ask you if there were any like top tips that came from the demo, from a lot of the questions that you might get along the way from cosplayers who are trying to do their own foam building.
I like to do, I've done that demo a couple times now, and I kind of just bring everything out. Like, here's what I've started with basics, because you get people that know what they're doing, and then I'll throw in a couple things. But we also get a lot of people that are like, I want to make things and I don't know where to start. So I usually start with here's the minimum you need, and then here's the next layer of what you need, because obviously you're only as good as the tools that you have, and as you get into it a little bit more, you start getting fancier and fancier tools and toys to play with. But I mean, I usually start them on like, you need foam, you need a sharp utility knife, and you need barge, because barge is life if you're playing with foam.
Yes, barge is very very useful.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like,
Can never have enough.
Yes, there's like just mass produced barge over and over. I've been on a big kick of the foam clay stuff. It's just so cool, of the details that you can add and the mistakes that you can fix with that foam clay. It's pretty great.
Yes, I just cracked open a bucket of it
Yeah.
Last weekend, and I was really amazed at just like the pliability and like the shaping, and it just goes right back to where it needed to be. So
yep.
I ended up just doing a little bit of a 3D button, and it, you know, like you could smash it down a bunch of times. Yeah, it's really easy to work with.
It's really cool stuff. And then all you have to do is put a little bit of water on it to make it stick, and you can smooth it out with water too. So it's very accessible for everybody. That's what I use for the face on the Castle of Grayskull Dice Towers, is I just sculpted out of clay. I've got a larger cosplay commission that I'm thinking that we're finishing up, but it's going to be Daishi off of Power Rangers, and it is like very, very elaborate, but it's got a giant, it's very big. I'm a little intimidated by it, but also like it excites me, so I'm like, ooh, I want to try it. But the chest piece is like the big lion head, and so I'm curious how that one's going to go for me, because it's not just a small face on a Pringles can, it's an entire chest piece.
Oh, I can't
We're
wait
leveling
to see
up.
that. That is really cool.
Yeah.
I love the dice holders, super detailed. I mean, it's just they're just fun. Like it's just a really great, like, especially with like Catan, because there's so many pieces and there's so much going on with the game. I mean, it's like this whole universe of things that you can do with the game. I mean, it's just, and they keep making more. But yeah, having something to organize that's also kind of cool. It's just really amazing, and you do a really wonderful job with your booth too.
Well, thanks.
And sorry to be such a fanboy, but
it is like making my whole month. So you just call me once a week, and we'll get our fixes, and we can talk about how great we are, and it'll be good.
Well, you flattered me as well in your comments when we were kind of going back and forth about some of the foam, because you said like, you were like, you sound like you could probably do a lot of this on your own, and I'm like, no, I'm just faking it. Like
you knew what you're talking about. You had me fooled. I was like, yeah, he knows what he's doing. Why are you making me do it?
Yeah, I'm a super beginner. I kind of get it. Like I'm learning.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it's a lot of starting over again and again for me. Yep. So, and I think that's really important for people to know too. It's like, if you don't get it the first time, and I do have a couple podcasts coming out. If they didn't already, I get a little confused where I am in the season sometimes, but the just, you know, be be comfortable experimenting a little bit. You know, if you go through some foam, like it's not the end of the world. It's a few
Right.
dollars.
Yep.
And you can remake it and you can learn from that experience. Like, don't be afraid of it. I think that was a lot of things I had to overcome. I was kind of afraid that I was just gonna like screw it all up.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, you know, start with pattern and work from there. Because
start with a pattern. Always start with a pattern. That's my biggest probably thing. And there's so many awesome patterns. It's to the point where if you want to make it and there's not a pattern, like that's kind of weird. Like, why is there not a pattern? For example, I made a gender bend Xena warrior princess costume. And I was like, I'm old and I love Xena. She was like the best. And so that's what I'm gonna be for Halloween. And I'm like, oh, I'll make that. I can't seem to find a pattern. So I'm gonna have to make that one up. So we'll see how that goes. But for the most part, there's so many wonderful patterns out there and everyone's really generous with their pricing or with their advice with them. So there's almost anything you want to make, except for all the things that you send me, Scott. I have to make that up. So
I probably have more coming up. So
perfect.
It's just it's just really you've really accelerated my I guess the things that have been keeping me from finishing cosplays, even motivating me behind the scenes to kind of just take the next step and be like, okay, you know, let's I'm getting a lot of help here from Jess, so why don't I just, you know, do the finish the details, get this done, check these off, and let's start really, you know, making content with these things, because I want to get your name out there too. I want to say, hey, you know, Jess made these things, like, look at how
I
awesome
appreciate
they are.
you. Yeah, that's awesome.
I would like to talk about a few more recent requests that you've had from the community besides myself. You did some art, you know, I'm going to just totally kill this name, but Artemisia.
I think so.
Spines.
I'm terrible about it too.
You did some spines not too long ago.
Those were so fun. Michelle was a blast to work with.
For Michelle, and I thought they just looked fantastic.
Thanks.
Of course, she's such a pro when it comes to cosplays and just being able to craft, and she's so good with wigs and things, so it always comes
she looked
really
amazing
well.
in her pictures that she posted. I would love to see it in person. She looks so good.
Well, I know we're gonna be at Emerald City Comic Con, but other than that, I think she's going to MegaCon.
Is she?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's just very well, I don't know, it to me it just seems like it's just super challenging, and just all of the little pieces and little things that you come up with. I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about Havoc, just how all that came together, because I gave you a few different references, and you kind of went with it. And I know I was a little bit more disorganized with that one than I was with Dr. Fate, because I really knew, I was like, this is what I want for Dr. Fate. But with Havoc, I was like, well, he's drawn probably 20 different ways. It's really hard to tell where this chess piece goes and what it does. And I didn't give you a ton of direction on it. I kind of just knew that you'd be able to make the disc look really cool. And, you know, I knew that the belt would work out, and I knew that the gauntlets would look really cool. And I was taking that actually just from the figurine that I found of a later version of him. It's not even, it's kind of like an alternate universe version of Havoc that I used for some of the pieces. But still calling back a little bit to the Claremont era, with just the overall appearance of him. But I guess I had to try and make it a little bit more realistic, but I didn't want it to be like the X-Men First Class, where it looks like a speaker. So it was a really hard balance to come across. The other piece, which I have, which I'd like to share, this really cool looking thing. And you just like, I was just blown away when I opened it. I'm like, wow, that looks, I mean, you side by side, it is exactly the way it looks in the comics, the Siege Perilous. That
it was
Destiny.
really fun to make.
Would you mind maybe talking us through a little bit about?
Yeah, of course. So I just measured the bottom. That's 2 pieces of 10 mil, and I put in, like, I did a layer on the top, and then I added some of that foam clay to add the extra pops of depth. And then the ones on the ends are just like I think they're 6 or 8 mil, and then just dremeled them to shape because they had a really unique shape with the things that pop off the side. So I wanted to make sure and highlight that for you.
How do you get it to dry? The clay foam, does it
It'll
just set
cure
in place?
yeah, just leave it alone and it'll cure in 24 hours. And then you can even sand it,
Oh,
which is pretty, yeah. Then you can really get it to blend in well.
and it just came out great. I like it's got like a nice weathered look to it, which is just perfect.
I think that's the first one
Um,
I've painted for you too.
yes, yeah, I've been trying to do as much on my own as I can. I didn't want to burden you with all of these like
Well,
pieces and
no,
like
and if you're good at
airbrushing
painting, I'm always
them.
happy to pawn off the painting. That's my least favorite part. So
But you do prime everything,
I do.
which is really helpful. Like that's half the battle, having the undercoat already done. So then it's just applying coats, and in theory that sounds like it works really easily. But I still have to figure out like how I'm going to airbrush, like if I'm going to airbrush the gauntlets or I'm going to like paint them or what.
Yeah.
But anyways, do you, I guess, as we come to the end, and just again, thank you so much for all of your help and work on this little Inferno Saga project that is kind of going on in the background this season and will come out later this year. We'll definitely be shouting you out for all of the help and work that you've done with the props and the costumes. And yeah, I would really hope that we have at least a few more projects coming up in the future. But do you have any future projects that you'd like to talk about? Cons coming up this year, next year that you might want to mention?
Yeah, we are currently actually working on a website. We're being big kids and getting our own website. So trying to get a little bit off Etsy as we can as they increase their prices for what they charge us to be on there. And then, so we're working on that right now, and hopefully that'll go live this month. And I'm trying to pick up a summer show here in Missouri. We talked about maybe doing one in Arkansas. Nothing concrete. Our next one will be just a fall festival in Fair Grove in Missouri. And then probably we'll do Vision Con, which is a Springfield con next year. Trying to work our way up a little bit. OzCon was an excellent show for us to kind of get our feet wet. It was in West Plains, Missouri, so it's a smaller show. But Vision Con will be a big jump for us if we can pull that one. So that's kind of our goal. I really have enjoyed the cons. Way more than I thought I would. Like, it's just so wonderful to talk with people and geek out with them, to be honest, and I had several people come up and pick up. I like to make even the unpainted bracers like that are on my Etsy site. I make those for cons, and it's just so cool. People coming up and they're like, this is just what I needed. And they love that they're not painted, because then they can make them look like whatever they need them to look like, if they need to be blue or they need to be silver. Just meeting people and making something exactly what they want is so rewarding, and it's just nice to be out there. So I definitely want to add more cons and start branching out. It's just I'm still kind of new and nervous, so I think it's hard to pony up that much money for the vendor fee without scaring me off a little bit, because they're pricey for sure. So
yeah, booths are not cheap.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and then it's, I mean, I'm just doing this for obviously my job, like set up and take down, and then coming up with just all of the like arranging everything in the booth and making sure that everything is, the things that aren't nailed down are staying in the booth where they need to be. It's just like the policing and stuff like that. Like there's just all these little things that you have to think about when you're doing it, and it can be kind of stressful to do the setup and the takedown, and then it's expensive
it really is, because you're like,
space.
well, that just made that dice tower negative $400.
But yes, definitely, I'm sure that many people appreciate you being there, and just all the expertise that you have with everything that you do, and just really the wow factor when they come past you and just see all of these amazing things that you build, all the props, weapons, the full suits that you've created as time has gone on. And I'm sure that it's only going to get cooler and more detailed and better
Hope so.
as the years pass. So Yay. No, I'm very, just very grateful to have you on the show and to be working with you.
Oh, for sure.
And of course, where can we find you and how can we support you online?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram at just GeekEthos. The website will be geekethos.com, so pretty easy to remember. Um, and then I have an Etsy store as well. It's a little barren right now as I've been working on Percy Jackson, and then we had the con, so don't have a lot of inventory right now, which is a good problem to have. But got a little bit of a break now, so I can start building some stuff back up.
Just a really fantastic person in this space, someone who is always there to help cosplayers out with things, and of course just does such a great job creating and realizing all of these visions and all of these wonderful pieces that these comic book characters and anime characters and everything. I don't see a limit to what you create, so it's fantastic.
Thanks, man. You're a treasure.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. And
yeah,
friends, thank you for listening and for watching. This has been the Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary with GeekEthos saying bye-bye, everybody.